What's up, everyone? Welcome to the show, the Schuh Show. That's Rob Schuh. I'm Grant Cohn, just living in Rob's world. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing all right, man. It's Friday, can't complain. Enjoying the fact that we're getting closer and closer and closer to additional information.
Additional information. That's what February is all about.
Yeah,
Nothing happening. Could we just have a crumb, a
a
piece
little
of
bit,
information? I'll settle
just a
for a
little.
rumor. Okay, so what we do know is that the Niners are promoting from within, and it's a trend. Brian Fleury is the latest one. He came to the Niners as a defensive coach, worked both sides of the ball, quality control, and now he's a position coach despite never, ever playing tight end or coaching that position. But this is how the Niners do business, and their coaching staff is pretty good. What do you think of this trend?
The question for me becomes, is this a positive thing or a negative thing? And I think you can spin it from both angles, that it is a positive thing. You've got an intelligent head coach who clearly has a lot to pass along to his disciples that can raise them up from within the ranks and has a track record of doing it successfully, promoting from within. But I also equate this to an analogy of purebred animals, right? When you're attempting to breed a particular cat or dog or whatever it is, and you're going to sell that animal, you breed in these phenomenal traits, right? You've got a golden retriever that's got this luscious coat and all of that. But then it's got hip problems because it's a purebred and there's a little bit of inbreeding going on there as well. And so the negative becomes just that. Any negative traits that exist within the 49ers organization get passed along to that new coach as well. And eventually, if you have too much groupthink, if you have too many people aligned in that way, it amplifies the negativity. So for me, it again goes back to what's the bigger, positive or negative. I tend to think that it's the positive traits Kyle Shanahan passes along to these coaches. But I also wonder if not being clutch in key moments is something that's bred in, much like hip dysplasia.
Oh, so what basically you're saying is Kyle looks at it as like he sees himself as the best offensive coach in the world. This is the best offensive think tank, maybe coaching think tank outside of New England.
Right?
Why not indoctrinate your coaches? Why not have them learn here as opposed to bringing a bunch of guys who are set in their ways from other organizations, company? Isn't that sort of how, is that how it works? I mean, I'm not a tech guy. My brother is. Shout out my brother who's let me use his house today. Is that how they do things in Silicon Valley? Like they try to indoctrinate everyone that comes in, or do they want people from all over?
It's a mix, and it depends on your strategy. You certainly see companies. I've been a part of companies that have brought a lot of people up from within, but there's also that belief that you need to avoid that groupthink. You need to bring in outside voices. To me, that was the relief of bringing in Anthony Lynn, was that I've been saying for a while now that this seems to be a concerning trend for the San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan in his career is getting tight in exactly the wrong moments, and to continue simply promoting from within and ignore bringing in any outside voices just perpetuates that. It's doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results.
My thing with Brian Fleury in particular is I'm sure he's gifted and smart and hardworking because Kyle Shanahan has said he is. And Kyle Shanahan has the best judgment of other coaches. But just to put him he needs a promotion, right? So you give him the tight ends coach. Wasn't there another promotion you could give him because he's never played the position, never coached the position? Isn't it fair for any tight end on the team to be like, what does Brian Fleury know that can help me do my job better? How is he going to make me better? I mean, I'm sure he's a rising star, but how is he going to help me rise too? I think it's a fair question.
It definitely is, and you could see a quality tight end, a George Kittle, saying something like that to himself. Maybe not voicing that to Kyle Shanahan, maybe not voicing it to the team, but a voice inside his own head. You just let go of my favorite coach, the coach that got me to where I'm at, and now you replace it with this gentleman. But I tend to believe that those traits you just mentioned that Kyle Shanahan put forth as the reason that Brian Fleury is going to be able to handle this role, being a grinder, does typically endear you to folks, right? If you're a hard worker, if you're somebody that's nose is to the grindstone, and players on the team can certainly see that because Brian Fleury's been around, you could see them respecting the grind, even if he doesn't have a background there. And it's interesting to me that Shanahan does this consistently, that his belief is you should start on the defensive side of the ball so that you truly understand core defensive principles. And then you reverse engineer it when you become an offensive coach. You then look at it from not how am I going to move the ball? No, how am I going to attack weaknesses in the defense?
Yeah, that's really cool. And I like, it seems like Kyle Shanahan has a very clear-cut concept of how to groom coaches, and I think him and his dad have been doing it for a long time. I mean, they're so proud of what they put together in Washington, and they have so much. I mean, they like to point out how Washington basically dumped them for no good reason. Then they had a superstar staff over there. My only thing is, like, there are a few coaches on this coaching staff who are clearly here because Kyle values their ability to game plan or help him on some conceptual level. Right. But they have no expertise with the position they're coaching, like this guy or Rich Scangarello. Like, right. You never played quarterback. You were not a quarterback coach. You were an offensive coordinator at some small university. So I think Kyle must talk football with Scangarello or Fleury and be like, man, this guy is brilliant. Just like Saleh, he can identify it, but still, like, that. A position coach is all about the techniques of playing a position, like the little tiny minutia things that help you block better, get open. I mean, I don't think this guy has I know he doesn't have a background in that. So anyway, it'd be interesting to see what Kyle knows. I'm not really.
He does.
Kyle knows. Interesting.
But it is very interesting. And these are, I believe, the position coaches that deserve the greatest amount of scrutiny. I agree that Rich Scangarello is in that camp. Like, what evidence do we have of the positive impact of Rich Scangarello at such a critical position where he's going to be monitoring the progress of Trey Lance as he takes over the freaking franchise? So
to me, Scangarello is like a offensive coordinator candidate. He had the job for a year with Vic Fangio. So I think the Niners, Kyle likes grooming guys who can become coordinators, head coaches. That's his tree. And I think Anthony Lynn could be in his tree. Right. Mike McDaniel's in his tree. I think he's looking at Fleury as this guy could be in mine. He's that good. He was a quarterback. He's done both sides of the ball. But it's just like in his rapid ascension, he has to go through tight ends. And it just seems like I'm just going to be here for a year until I get a better job. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what it feels like. But I'm sure
just here so I don't get fined.
He's really good.
Yeah. No, I mean, it is. Kyle Shanahan is preparing for this fact that it's a constant promotion cycle within his franchise. I mean, It's a blessing and a curse that he is genius enough that people want to continue to cherry pick his coaches and bring them in. And that then requires that he's got to be consistently bringing up candidates to replace other coaches.
I mean, Brian Fleury could be a head coach in 2 years. If Mike McDaniel can become a head coach after 1 year of being a coordinator when he didn't even call plays, and then there's no telling what Brian Fleury could be in 3 years. So I see what Kyle's doing here.
The future is bright.
They should. What I would say if I was Kittle, I would go up to Kyle and be like, look, fine, man, whatever. Can we have like an assistant tight end coach who knows what he's talking about? Please. How about that?
I get what you're doing here, Kyle.
I mean, I'm just saying, I'm trying to get better. Kenyon, thank you. TJW says if his name was Ted Lance, the narrative would magically be different. Go get him, Trey. Ooh, he might be right, though. Ed Stack, thank you.
He's certainly right in that it would be different, right? I mean, there's just no question that it would be different. I don't know how different, but it would be different.
Over under 13 TDs for Trey next season? Oh, my God. If it's less, that means he's either the worst quarterback of all time or got hurt. So I'm going to say over 13.
Yeah, if it's not over, man, that's going to be a painful season. I guess you could say, well, there's other options out there. I mean, hell, we're getting even more trickle out information about Tom MFing Brady again today. Just more leaks. So it could be under if something weird like that happened.
I'm disconnected from the world, as people may know. Can you explain to me what happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's not very breaking news, but it was from here. Let me bring in who it was that actually said it. Rich Ohrnberger, a player that used to be with New England and a couple other teams.
Who could forget Rich Ohrnberger, right?
Yeah, he tweeted out, heard some interesting things recently. The Tom Brady and Bruce Arians honeymoon was over in Tampa. The retirement announcement wasn't because of the trouble seeing eye to eye on the offensive game planning, but the relationship was souring. Apparently, while Arians was rehabbing the Achilles in the early mornings, offensive coordinator Byron Leftwich and Brady would work on the week's game plan. Arians would later come in and take the red pen to work they'd done. The QB and OC felt undermined. There was tension.
Oh, wow. Well, but wasn't that why Kyle didn't want Tom Brady to begin with? I know we're not talking about this yet, but wasn't it the whole thing? Kyle didn't fit his offense, couldn't do the bootlegs, couldn't do the play action, wanted too much control. Wasn't that? Am I wrong?
No, you're not. My note underneath that was like, sounds kind of like something Kyle would do.
Yeah. Okay. So let's move on.
But hey, it took him 2 years for that relationship to sour. All we need is 1 year, Grant. All we need is one.
There you go. All right. I want to talk about the assistant coaches one more time. It seems like they still got to replace Wes Welker. They got to replace Wes Welker. And it seems like they like to promote from within. They have a former wide receiver on their staff that Kyle Shanahan drafted. Leonard Hankerson, currently an offensive quality control coach. I mean, if he is prepared and has a good interview, I'm sure it's his job to lose at this point.
It is. And you're actually talking about an NFL wide receiver in this instance, right? So a bit more fitting of what you're looking for in both camps. He comes up from the Kyle Shanahan tree and has actual experience to bring to the table, even if it wasn't at an elite level. Yeah,
he was basically, I remember him being a disappointment. My cousin is a big Washington fan. They spent a 3rd round pick on him. And I think they were trying to, talk themselves into him being like Brandon Marshall or something. I remember Mike was in Denver. He got fired. But that was right before Brandon Marshall took off. And I think they were trying to bring in that big bodied type. And Hankerson, I did a really good job at the combine, if I remember correctly. His 3-cone
had good numbers. Yeah.
His 3-cone was great. His shuttle was great. Yeah. 6'3". Not a great wide receiver.
And he has been a wide receivers coach before at Stephen F. Austin University, a very prestigious football program. Yes. Not to be confused with Stephen W. Austin. Please get that straight.
Not to be confused with Weezy F. Baby.
And then UMass as well. So
yeah. So Leonard Hankerson will probably get to dig into his background because that guy is probably getting promoted.
It seems like a likely target, right? I mean, that is right up Shanahan's alley.
Julian Edelman to coach. He's from around here.
Yeah, yes, he is. Bring him in.
Master J, who might be related to Master P, says Mac Trey. Trey can't play, just more subterfuge by the Niners. Ha ha ha. I don't get it, but I liked your name. All right, let's move on. Thank you. So look, Joe Montana made the biggest splash at the Super Bowl when he didn't even give an opinion, reported that the 49ers players think Trey Lance isn't ready and they need to stick with Jimmy. That was a big deal from Joe, who's now a reporter. Ever since then, there's been a lot of reports through like other people who've dedicated their careers to reporting, saying that the Niners feel differently. What do you think of the Niners' sort of coordinated response to the GOAT?
It feels like a very coordinated team response. And
right.
I mean, Joe comes off as a little bit salty in this. Joe comes off as maybe feeling like the team did him wrong in trading him to Kansas City. Although, as I recollected, it was messy when Joe left. But my recollection is reading the San Francisco Chronicle about Eddie DeBartolo making a last-ditch effort to say, no, Joe, you can stay. Like, I will override all of the coaching staffs and allow you to stay here and be the starter, and Joe turning it down. I may be making up that memory in my memory banks. I haven't gone back to the microfiche to actually pull out the article. I could ask my dad, but
he's taking a nap. He probably wrote that column, him and Ira.
I was going to say, it might be.
But that's not the time. We'll find out eventually. It seems to me, though, like if that's the case, I could see Joe being like, I'm not gonna like stay here against my coaches. I mean, he would have pride. I mean, he would want to go somewhere where he's wanted, of course. Yes. And I still think from his perspective, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. How could you ever move on from him? How could you ever choose anyone else? It's not like the Niners ever moved on from Steve Young. It's not, so no. It might be, it seems to me, look, this is where I look at it. I think that, as you pointed out, Eddie was ready Eddie was more loyal to Joe than anyone. I think he was more loyal to Joe than anyone. So that Eddie and Joe were like this. Eddie's gone. It's not Eddie's team anymore. So I don't know how Joe feels about the Yorks. Maybe it gives him pleasure to say, hey, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe. It gives me pleasure. I'm saying, you know what I mean? The Yorks.
You could understand why he would be salty, because it takes a certain level of ego to get to be that great, right? You have to have that edge. You have to believe you're the greatest of all time. And why would anyone dare trade me away? And so
look at
I
Steve
could
Young,
understand.
He felt they should have got rid of Joe earlier. Steve.
Right.
That's what he felt. Yeah, Joe's great, but I'm Steve. So
yeah.
you can only imagine how Joe felt.
It left a bad taste in his mouth. And I don't think he's doing the organization any favors after that. That he doesn't feel like he owes them anything, because they didn't feel like they owed him anything when they shipped him off to Kansas City. And so to me, it's Joe getting back a little bit, not following the company line, which is pretty clear that, hey, we talked up Jimmy Garoppolo, now we're going to talk up Trey.
Can I give you a timeline real quick? So last year I interviewed him. This was before they traded up for that pick. And this was back when they were trying to sell to everyone that Jimmy was their guy. He came on my YouTube channel and said, I think they need a young guy. Basically saying their plan is wrong. They're going to say with Jimmy, I think they need a young guy. And I think their contract that they gave Jimmy Garoppolo was overzealous. He used that word. So, okay, then they follow his advice. They get the young guy. And, 2 months in to that season, Trey hasn't even played yet. It was understood that was the plan. Joe says, oh, they should have taken Mac Jones right away. And then now he takes it another step further and says Trey's not ready. They got to keep Jimmy. That's 3 big ones in about a year. And they're all the common theme is Niners are doing it wrong. The Niners are doing it wrong 3 in a row. Yeah. So I don't know why, but you know what? I do that a lot too. So game recognized game, Joe.
Yeah, you got to respect it. You got to.
I do.
He is the GOAT. He is the GOAT.
Beneath him. It's not beneath me. I didn't play for this team. He did. He probably shouldn't be doing this. But
he shouldn't.
It's fun.
He should be bigger than that.
Probably. I am not bigger than that. I'm very small.
And yet neither is he, apparently.
No, apparently not. Says,
but the team did respond. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, to me, the team responded with these leaks that came out, right? All of a sudden, Matt Mayoko has these 2 interviews with very 49er and Shanahan friendly individuals. Matt Mayoko interviews Jay Glazer, right? Who has nothing but effusive things to say about Trey Lance and what he's hearing out of the locker room and from the coaching staff, and Peter King, both of whom are very well connected within the 49ers coaching staff.
Yes, but the problem is Joe said the locker room, and nothing that Glazer or anyone reports. King, it makes me feel like they're talking to the player. To me, they're talking to the front office,
right?
Which is, it's in their interest to do this now. And it's almost like I've seen some conspiracy theories on this show, people saying, well, maybe they're pumping up Trey Lance's trade value. Maybe Trey Lance is the trade chip they offer for Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady. So I don't know. I just feel like what Joe Montana did was very, very explosive and damaging, because there's nothing the Niners can do to change it. And he might be right. Who knows? Maybe the players in the locker room are like, well, we'll see. Lance definitely has flashed some goodness, but I don't know.
Regardless of the conspiracy theory, where I agree is that it is team propaganda. To me, that's not the question. That is not in question. That the release of these 2 interviews with very team-friendly sources that sound like it's coming from the front office, and then the mysterious practice video that gets released as well, showing some very exciting passes by Trey Lance, regardless of what the motivation is, could be something as crazy as them making a play for one of these big names. Could just be that they're defending their young quarterback and they want to put out some positive stuff. To me, what's very clear is it is team propaganda that supports Trey Lance for whatever their motivations.
Hopefully it's good motivations. They want him to play. I could say, what if, it's the thing. I can't get over the fact that they like Trey, right? Trey's their plan. Trey, the day of the draft, reportedly, they called the Packers and were like, look, we got this 3rd round. We got this 3rd pick.
You want it?
Do you want it? Yeah, we'll take Rodgers. So they like Lance, but we already know they would make that trade, right? They tried to make the Lance for Rodgers trade before they officially had Lance on their team. They did it the day of the draft. That was reported. So did Lance do anything over the last year that would make the Niners not do that trade? No, I'm sorry. So it's just something you got to keep in the back of your mind. I don't think everyone's like, it's ridiculous, right? They won't trade Aaron Rodgers to the Niners in the same? Probably not, but the Niners would do it. The Niners would do it.
Yeah, I think you can say both. It is somewhat ridiculous, and the Niners might do it. Like there's a 1 in 100 chance that it happens, no doubt. So you can't rule it out at this point.
I don't know how we got in this topic, but it's a very interesting little side. They would say yes to Aaron Rodgers. Keneal says, "What's up? What's up, Keneal? Do y'all think it's a coincidence that the one guy on the offense who wasn't blinded by 2019 Ayuk is the guy who's obviously pro Trey?" Yes. No, is not a coincidence. Not a coincidence at all. No, absolutely. It's a big deal. I like how Ayuk was so like, you know what? I don't have anything nice to say, so I'm just going to shut the hell up. I love that. Ayuk was really cool the whole year. That was smart. And every time he had to stand up there and like another beat writer was like, "So Brandon, you really weren't being professional this year. How did you get it together?" And he's just sitting there like, "Well, you don't know. You wouldn't know." So, but he never complained about it. Anyway, someone's at the door. Can you hold on? Can you take over for a second?
I'll take the reins. I mean, you just sort of continue along the path of killing time, letting people know that, hey, I got a show over on my channel at 3:30. Going to be bringing Jack Hammer on there. You all know Jack Hammer. Jack Hammer is fantastic, and he is going to be there. We're doing a dope show on the channel. What's up, Grant?
It was Amazon. I totally didn't need to do that. Joe didn't enjoy signing his autographs for kids. Now he sells his autos for survival. Oh, wow. Shots fired.
Shots fired.
Now, here's the thing about Joe. I don't know Joe Montana that well, but he played in a different era. Football players didn't get paid that much in the 80s. No. I would imagine he doesn't have nearly as much money as he thinks he should. Just saying. So maybe that explains why he's promoting stuff.
Even his sponsorships back then, like Joe was big time in deals, but the money just wasn't the same back then. They weren't getting paid by advertisers the same amount. Like they were, it just
there was no free agency
era.
There was no free agency. Master J says Niners are playing poker again, just as they hid Trey behind the Mac J hoopla. Mac Jones saying he isn't ready is trickeration. Mac J is a rapper in Sacramento too. You really confused me on that one.
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones. I don't get it. I'm lost. His guy's playing 4D chess and I can't keep up.
Well, anytime you're throwing in trickeration in there, you're complicating things here.
Yeah, so you got me. Like I bit on the play fake on that one. I don't understand where the ball's going. Harley says, "Did you see Lance's practice footage trending lately? In my opinion, what looks not ready about that. They definitely wanted to flip Jimmy G for picks. Why? They're so lucky this practice footage didn't come out during the season. It would have given me so much more ammo for the stuff that I was already saying.
Oh my goodness!
Wow. But now that it comes out, like
you start to see why Shanahan may not have been working in Trey for those 3 to 4 snaps a game, right? I mean, even at that point where the Niners are resurging within the season, if we started to see these things on the field, the fervor to switch to Lance would have grown to an unimaginable level.
That's true. Brandon will shine with Trey, TB Mullins versus Buffalo. Yeah, didn't Mullins threw to Ayuk all the time. Mullins actually, I would think his shot chart was a little bit different than Jimmy's. He was much more aggressive.
He was
much more aggressive. So yeah, we can see that with Trey. After great games in the playoffs, not the Rams game, what are the Niners expecting from Eric Armstead next season? Like a consistent effort for once. Sorry, he can be the best player on the field. I'd like to see him do that more than 3 times a year, which is what he did this year. But I mean, it's great that he did it. I mean, he has it in him. Grant, you skipped my question? Damn. Going back to look. I'm having a tough time.
Gotta find it. George.
I bet I didn't skip it either.
Right?
I bet I didn't.
He probably just hadn't gotten to it by the time.
Trey Lance will shock the world. All of his haters will shut up very soon. I'm looking at you, Joe. He's not calling Kaepernick. He's an actual quarterback. He's not calling Kaepernick.
Why do they need to take the shot at Cap? Like why was that necessary?
Thanks, George. All right, let's get back to our show. So back to Trey. If he had a biopic this year in films, it would be called 19 Starts Since High School, the Trey Lance story. It's very sobering when you look at it that way. Is that how you look at it with Trey Lance? Are you that apprehensive because of that fact?
I'm not. But when it's called out, I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. Like I don't deny it. I don't look at it and say, well, it's completely irrelevant to where we're at right now. But it is just the facts, right? That was why you took him last year, because you saw the potential, you saw the ceiling, you saw the athleticism, you saw the potential greatness there. When I looked at the highlight reel, which is my sort of order of operations, when I'm going to look at a potential prospect, I go highlight reel first because I want to see what your ceiling is. And then I'll go through the individual game tape and look at some of your poorer games to look at where you might struggle. But I want to know what's the highest high. If you're able to do what you did in college in the NFL, what would it look like? And it jumped off the page for me with Trey Lance. So to me, the 49ers saw the future. They saw a glimpse of what it could be, and it was worth the risk. I remain convicted that if Trey Lance had gone back to school, that he probably would have had close to, if not another undefeated season at North Dakota State University, and he would be the consensus #1 overall pick in this 2022 draft. So the Niners' value in getting him 3rd overall last year seems pretty damn good to me when I consider it that way.
Yeah, I mean, experience matters for quarterbacks. As Bill Walsh used to say, it's a game of repetitions, but you can gain experience. Literally, it's the easiest thing in the world to gain. You can't gain natural talent. And that's what you're really drafting. You know, like experience is nice, but there's plenty of like 4-year starters in college who were not NFL caliber. I mean, it's not what you're drafting for. So it's a consideration, but another way to look at it with Trey, like how you said it is, if this guy had gone to a school that was more fitting of his talent, like if he'd gone to Alabama or Clemson and actually played 2 or 3 years, as he absolutely had the talent to do, and there was no pandemic, chances are he wouldn't have went number 3. Chances are you'd be looking at him as, the way I look at him, is the most physically gifted quarterback I've ever seen. No one talks about him that way because he's not experienced. And it's like those two things have nothing to do with each other. Just put that aside. Forget where he went to college. Forget how little he's played. Just look at the skill set. You can't compare it to anyone else. Some people compare it to Josh Allen. Cool, but Josh Allen can't run like that. And you can compare it to anyone. Like it's very unique. The way I look at it is, you ever do it in basketball, like NBADraft.net. They'll have draft grades for the players, and there'll be like 10 different categories, and they'll be ranked 1 through 10. He's a 9 or a 10 on everything. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everything. So that's why he's so intriguing to me. I don't really care. I like how young he is. I like how inexperienced he is. It just means he was more attainable for the Niners.
Yeah, I see him as a triple threat. The physical traits are obvious. You can watch the tape, but you also see him as a grinder. What we talked about with the assistant coaches and why you would value them. The same is true with Trey, in that he's relentless in his preparation. And then it's clear as day to me, the level of intelligence that he possesses. It comes across when he speaks to the media. It comes across when he's at the podium speaking. I don't think you can question his intelligence, his dedication, and his physical skill set. That triple threat to me is enough promise that, yeah, is there some risk? Of course there is. There's risk in everything. Bring back Jimmy another year, maybe he gets injured week 1, and that's that, right? Like, there's risk in everything, but Trey Lance seems to be a pretty good bet.
Yeah, I mean, like, try to use a different sport as an analogy. Let's go back to the 60s, and imagine we were boxing scouts and we saw a very young Muhammad Ali. Ooh, and we're trying to decide whether he should recommend him to the trainer who
Cassius Clay.
And we're like, he's great. He's got the quickest hands I've ever seen, got the quickest feet, his accuracy. He just hasn't fought that. He's only had about 3 or 4 fights. So you know what? I wouldn't recommend him. He's just not experienced enough. Like, wow, that would have been the worst advice you could have given. So sometimes your job is to sort of see past that stuff and see what's the true potential of someone. And I think maybe I'm way off with Lance, but to me, he's got the highest potential of any quarterback I've ever seen. Doesn't mean he'll even get halfway there. It's going to take a lot of coaching and things to go his way, but I'm intrigued. I don't care about his high school, his starts since high school.
And that is what these scouts have to do. It's prognostication. It is your ability to read the tea leaves and look to the future and predict. And the beauty of what we do and putting our opinions out with prognostication is that we're not talking about going back and changing the past. We're talking about things that haven't happened yet and our speculation as to what direction they go. These things will actually play out, and we will get to see whether we and the 49ers scouts and the 49ers front office were actually right about this.
The Niners moved Deebo Samuel to running back midseason, and he just happened to average like six. Like, he was one of the best ball carriers in the league. Was he great because he had experience doing it, or was he great because he still was the most athletic player on the field and he had the ball in his hands? I just feel like that's what's happening with Lance. As he goes forward, he'll be like, okay, like this is all new to me. But you know what is still the same? I'm still the most athletic. I can still make any throw I want. I can still get anywhere I want. That's not going to change until I'm 30-something years old. That's going to make me confident. I can learn the rest on the fly. I mean, it's a lot easier to have that than to be like, well, you know what? I've started so many games, all games. But I can't get the ball on time. I can't do anything. I mean, I'll take Trey. So many starts under my belt. Thanks. Ed Stack says, will Kittle continue to struggle or 1,000-yard season? Kittle's been hurt. Kittle's got hurt week 1 of the last 2 seasons. Week 1. So, yeah, he needs to get more targets and stuff. He needs to stay healthy.
That's true. The other thing that I thought was a trend that really isn't, because the stats came out. I thought because of the injuries along the offensive line that Kittle was being held in more to block, but the percentages are actually rather consistent, and it was a slight downtick from 2020 to 2021 as far as the percentage of plays where Kittle didn't run a route because he was held in to pass protect. That was a bit surprising to me. And so I think you got to look at the injuries. You've got to look at the usage within the play calling. And I would hope that much like Ayuk and Deebo, there's some more deep threat possibility with Lance coming in.
Real quick with Kittle. I'm looking at his game logs. Week 1 in Detroit, I was there. They targeted him 5 times. That's it. Injured his calf, affected him the entire season. What do you do? It's not. I may just be up to George and his body at this point. He's 20, almost 29.
And he spent last offseason working on his feet because he wanted to eliminate the lower leg injuries. So
boom, calf. I don't know, man. It's up to him, I think, at this point. Justin says we have consistency in winning with Jimmy. The devil you know versus the angel you don't. Regardless of the fear, you can't get anything worth having without a risk. Let's go, kid. I mean, I think the Niners have realized that they're not going to get all the way with. They're not going to win a Super Bowl with Jimmy. So don't you want to win a Super Bowl? Isn't it fair to say, look, we gave Jimmy 4 chances. He got hurt twice. He came close twice. We gave him the defense, the running game. We can't do with him. We got to. See, we've seen teams do that a lot. We got to get over the hump. We got to make a change.
Yeah,
it's not going to be the coach.
On a great team, Jimmy Garoppolo can be the limiting factor and has proven to be the limiting factor in several seasons.
Sean says, did you hear Steve Young come out today and say he thinks Trey isn't ready? Do these guys not understand the garbage they've been watching for 5 years? I didn't hear what he said specifically. What he's been saying, though, is that he thinks the Niners have been saying that he's not ready. And I think it's a good point. It's like, you want to come out and say how enamored you are with him now, but a month ago, you weren't enamored enough to play him over an injured Jimmy Garoppolo. So what the hell? And I think what the Niners are saying is like, well, it wouldn't have been fair to Jimmy and the team, and he took us that far to make the switch at the end. It's not fair. Okay, well, then fine. Then show us that you like Jimmy with Trey with your actions. I just don't want to hear that Glazer says you're enamored. You're going to actually have to show us, because Steve Young isn't buying it at this point, and I feel like that's fair. Steve Young's smarter than me.
Steve Young used some great logic in his argument that, like, are by not playing him, you're telling us what you think of Trey Lance. You, Kyle Shanahan, will do everything you can to win a game. You're not playing Trey. Therefore, you think that he's not adding to your ability to win that game. But I do think it's fair to go a little conspiracy theory on this one and to wonder if Kyle Shanahan just knew the kerfluffle that would get caused by any positive signs from Trey Lance, right? I mean, people were already calling for him over Jimmy, even when Jimmy was winning in that stretch. So I could understand if Kyle Shanahan was just trying to hold it all together at that point.
Florio thinks Tom will be Niners week 1 starter. Well, Florio's track record is just impeccable. But it's possible. Right. I guess it could. Where Trey is right now is a non-story. Yes, Kyle sat him for 2021. He will have an entire offseason as a starter. Yeah, that's a good point. Like, Give him what? Let's see where he is in September, October, November.
Much more important.
Sorry for your loss as well. Thank you. All right, let's go on. So part of the reason people question whether Trey Lance is ready is it's not just like, are you ready to play football in the NFL? Are you ready to take over this team? It's not Jaguars. It's not the Jets. It's a team that went to the Final Four of the NFL. It's a team that expects to be back. And whether or not Jimmy Garoppolo is limiting them, I'm not going to say he gets them there. They get there with him. So a lot of pressure for a guy who, as you said, 19 starts since high school. What do you think?
Kay Adams went as far as to say that Trey has to be at a Mahomes level this season, that you are taking over for a top 4 team. You got to come in and have a Mahomes level rookie season, not rookie
season. As if he had like a Justin Herbert level year, people would be like, man, that's just not good enough. That is just unacceptable.
Terrible.
You're only as good as Justin Herbert? What a bum. Now, Justin Herbert's good, of course, but you have to be better than that. Are you kidding me? Okay, Kay.
And the intention, I get the intention of the statement, which is to say that the Niners' goal is obviously to get back to or further than the NFC Championship game. And therefore, her contention is that in order to do that, you need that level of quarterback play, as she's saying. My contention is that the 49ers got there with Jimmy Garoppolo's inconsistent level of quarterback play. And if I'm giving Jimmy a grade on the entire 2021 season, it's probably somewhere around a B. And so that's all we need out of Trey Lance in order to replicate what was done last season. A slightly above average quarterback play, to me, is all that's needed.
Can we talk about Patrick Mahomes for a second, that he has to have a Patrick Mahomes level season? Like his first year in 2018, it was extraordinary. One of the greatest quarterback season ever.
Ridiculous.
50 touchdown passes. The next year, but he didn't win the Super Bowl that year. No. The next year, the year he won the Super Bowl, he threw 26 touchdown passes and 5 picks. I'll take that. Is that not good enough? He threw 4,000 yards. That's it. He barely threw more than 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns. Everyone's like, having a down season. That would be great for Trey Lance. Are you kidding? 26 touchdowns in the air, 5 picks, maybe a few more on the ground. Touchdowns on the ground. That's a Patrick Mahomes season. What are we really expecting from this guy? Yeah, that would be phenomenal. Actually, I think Jimmy had better numbers than Patrick Mahomes this year, technically.
Man.
Jimmy had a higher quarterback rating than Patrick Mahomes this year, technically. No one wants to talk about that, though. No one wants to talk about that. That's neither here nor there. Okay, George says because they keep comparing him to Colin Kaepernick because he's black and they think black quarterbacks can't play, they need to open their eyes. Wow, is that what it is? Like it's like PTSD from Niner fans because of the Colin Kaepernick experience?
I hope that's not the case.
I hope that's not the case. Might be, though. Grant, you were at camp last year. Who looked better? Between Trey and Jimmy? I thought it was Trey. Jimmy threw 11 picks and 11 touchdowns in camp. I thought that was alarming. Everyone else was like, nah, he's working on stuff. Yeah, he's a worker. He's a worker.
You were very clear in your coverage of the excitement that you got. I mean, I felt inspiration coming from you in the way in which you spoke about Trey Lance. Like, it got me excited.
Maybe I oversold it, but I feel like the things I was excited about started to show in the second half of that Houston game. Just the way Kyle called the game. The one in Arizona was so frustrating. I was like, what are you doing?
Oh, my God.
What are you doing? You didn't do this to him in training camp. Like, let him run the offense. Let him throw down the field. Let him do play action. And then, boom, freaking did. Jimmy has more – it's almost like he had to earn it, though. Kyle's like, you have to do X, Y, Z before I let you look good. And then he did. And then, boom, Kyle's like, all right, let's go out. Let's take some shots. I like that.
Kyle is very much about earning things. Yeah. Like he is all about you gotta earn this, young gentleman.
You gotta work up to this. I'm not gonna let you just take bombs down the field until you can hit this slant right here. Fair. All right, man. Jimmy has more rings than every active quarterback. LOL. True. Hilarious. Salah Safadi says Trey will continue to suffer through unfair scrutiny unless he is Mahomes because he doesn't play quarterback like all the white 1990s quarterbacks do, like Lamar. Oh man. Wow. This is going to be a good time, man. The Trey Lance era is going to be very, very interesting. I do think he plays quarterback a lot different than Colin, though.
Yes, that doesn't seem like a fair comparison. Their running styles are completely different. I would argue that Trey strikes me as a much more adept pocket passer at this particular point in his career.
Also, their way they threw was different. Kaepernick was very proud, bordering on arrogant with his throwing. He was saying, I'm not into mechanics. Like I could have been a pitcher in the MLB. He basically felt he was good. And Lance is he's working every offseason with this guru, that John Beck, I don't think he looks at it. I've never heard Trey Lance say he's not big into mechanics. And as soon as Kaepernick said that, I'm like, man, I'm a little bit out on you. Like, I thought you were one of the best. I thought also he was I thought he was an Andrew Luck level prospect. When he was doing his thing in 2012 and 2013, I'm like, damn, he is like as good as he's better than Cam Newton. He's on Andrew Luck's level. But then when he started saying stuff like, well, I don't know about mechanics, I'm like, man, you're not gonna keep improving. We all assumed you would, because you're such a hard worker. But anyway, that's the difference I see between
he was a definite gym rat, but he may not have had that same passion for the playbook and the mechanics like that.
Passion, honesty, self-awareness. Well, I don't know what you want to call it, but he was very adamant. He was like, well, look at Phillip Rivers. He's weird. I can throw. I feel like he's probably got coaches were heckling him about his throwing motion his whole life. And he proved people wrong for a long time. And that was his way of, I've been right about this. I'm going to stick to my gun. Anyway, it's enough. Sports is a show me business. Until Trey shows his greatness, there will be doubt around him, and sorry for your loss. That's true. It's true. And as you said, he's taken over a top four team. So let's keep talking about Lance. To you, what is the biggest hole in the Trey Lance plan?
The biggest hole in the Trey Lance plan was Kyle Shanahan's refusal to get him those snaps.
Thank you.
It was criminal.
I didn't bring that up during the season, right? I kept being like, hey, Kyle, why didn't you play him? Like 3 snaps, maybe.
Couple of times.
Okay.
Just like a couple of times.
He's your starter next year. Okay. All right. Just checking.
Because you just cannot convince me, no matter how close some of those games were, that came down to a play here or there, you can't convince me that Trey wouldn't have added value for the San Francisco 49ers over that stretch if you had worked him in 3 or 4 times. And this came up for me because Peter King noticed the same thing that you and I did. You were calling for him to get multiple snaps each game, just a handful. I was calling for it. Like, it was something that seemed so easy to work in. It wouldn't undermine Jimmy. You could make it very clear that you're just adding value to the offense, making it slightly less predictable, slightly harder to defend, and it would have given us some comfort for where we are right now in transitioning to Trey. We'd have more knowledge of what he's capable of.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I think it's fair to question all these reports about how enamored the Niners are. It's like, remember, they blew out the Rams at home. They were up big in the second half, no Trey. So why not? Like, you thought he was going to give up a blowout? He couldn't protect a blowout. And then in Jacksonville, they were up big in the third quarter, the fourth quarter. They didn't get Trey Lance in until the very, very end, and he never threw a pass. There was a series in the fourth quarter in Jacksonville where Jimmy Garoppolo got sacked. I mean, this guy is an injury waiting to happen when he gets hit. Sorry, but you know that about him. He's Mr. Glass, and you let him take a sack in the fourth quarter of a blowout against Jacksonville because you were concerned about putting away the Jaguars with Lance. But now you want us to believe that you're enamored? I mean, you're giving us some mixed messages, aren't you?
Yes, most definitely.
You, Rob.
I give a lot of mixed messages. I'm a slightly confusing individual in that way.
I'm right here with you, though. So the biggest hole in the Lance plan? Yeah, not playing him last year. I can't. You want fine. You want him to be the starter next year? Fine. Like, don't you want to have him hit the ground running? Because to me, the main reason I feel hesitant picking the Niners to win the Super Bowl next season is early. But it's just this.
Yeah, it feels like it
starts. I'd feel better about it.
It feels like it was a bit of insecurity on Kyle Shanahan's part, right? You could see the frustration on his face answering questions from people like yourself, impressors about Trey Lance. Hey, when do we get to see Trey Lance? Hey, what do you think about putting Trey Lance in again? Like, hey,
you were up 20 in the fourth quarter. Maybe. What do you say? What do you think?
You think maybe we could talk to him a little bit?
What? Yeah. What do you say, man? What do you say? You used to play him. You don't play him anymore. What's the deal?
So it was insecurity on his part that like he finally got past that to where people were no longer asking him about it. And he was like, dude, if I put him in for 3 snaps, all those questions are coming back and I'm going to have to start talking about it again.
Or maybe he didn't want him. You want to keep him healthy for that trade for Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. I don't know, but you never know.
You never know.
He got hurt a couple times. Steve says, wow, I can't wait for Trey to become the starting quarterback for the Niners. Moment came on that 4th and goal play in week 5 versus Cardinals when he tried to run it in himself and KO Isaiah Simmons, bang, bang. Yeah, that was cool. I think that was Trey Lance's that was an eye-opening moment for him. I can't do this. He never really beat an NFL defender to the edge. He never really did. Did he?
Not that I saw.
I'm telling you what his game is going to be pocket mobility. Getting to the perimeter to throw, and he'll be a monster on scrambles, but it's going to be his last resort. He's not a run first quarterback, and I like that about him. And again, another difference between him and Colin is the pocket mobility. It is hard to sack Trey Lance. He's quick. He's got very quick feet. He seems to sense when there's pressure around him, and he's strong. Remember young Ben Roethlisberger used to just shrug off sacks? You can't just take him down with an arm or a hand. Like, Trey is going to really make this offensive line look better than it is in pass protection.
Trey is elusive in that pocket.
Big time. Will you be a guest on Rombo's show tonight, Grant? No. Thank you very much. Sorry, I got a lot going on, and I don't even know Rombo like that. Jimmy Garoppolo holds the offense back due to lack of TD throws. This shows issues putting it tight windows. Same issue with Cap. Hope Trey has better thoughts. Yeah, neither Cap nor Jimmy threw a lot of touchdown passes. The Niners haven't had a guy who throws like 30 touchdown passes in the season since everyone's favorite quarterback right now, Jeff Garcia, everyone's favorite, the most progressive football analyst there is.
Jeff, bad
Jeff,
look.
What were you thinking? And then he doubled down. That was great. I used to call Jeff. Come on, Jeff. Now you're canceled. How does that help? Anyone? Hypnotic. Thanks. Cap was a clown. He got figured out and couldn't adjust. Trey's a ball. The future's bright. Fans make it racial. I don't think he was a clown. Give him more than that. Was a jerk.
Much more than that, man. I was there for that Green Bay game where he ran all over him in the playoffs. I mean, come on. Show some respect for that at least.
Yeah, he was a supreme competitor. He really was.
Yeah.
If you guys were the GM and you could draft Zach Wilson or Trey Lance all day, man, I'm sorry. That was my thing with Zach. Like, he's not the most gifted quarterback I've ever seen. People compare him to Aaron Rodgers. Like, I'm sorry. You didn't live through Aaron Rodgers. I went to those games at Memorial Stadium. No, this kid was just kind of throwing deep passes up for grabs against terrible defenses one season in the pandemic. I think he was fool's gold. Fugazi.
I was a little surprised that he was a consensus number 2 pick. It just didn't match up with the evidence.
You tell me the way their face looks doesn't matter. He is the most golden boy look ever. Look at him.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you can't. No one says it, but you can't tell me that's not a factor. I mean, it's a factor with Jimmy. I mean, NBA players like Kobe or LeBron got drafted from high school to the NBA, yet people have concerns about Trey with his inexperience. I don't get it. The NFL is very conservative in the way they look at quarterbacks. How about that?
Yes, they are. And you can say that athleticism on the basketball court can come through a little clearer. Like, you can dominate ball control. It's all about your athleticism. In the quarterback position, it's a little more nuanced than that. But I agree that it is because of conservative beliefs and, well, it has to be run just this certain way. You look at
how many 18, 19-year-old dudes get drafted top 5 overall in the NBA because they're 6'10 and can jump high and have no game. Happens all the time. They're like, who cares? Experience. Like, dude, like, where are you? And then it either works out or it doesn't. But the NBA takes those risks way more than the NFL does.
They do. But they're also patient with it, right? They bring guys in and allow them to mature.
I mean, James Wiseman is the Warriors' Trey Lance, is he not? He played 1 game in college? 2? Something like that?
Hey, you want to know a young gentleman that had the success story? Look at the Trailblazers this year and Anthony Simons. They got him when he was 18. He looked like this skinny little kid that couldn't do anything. He is going off this season. Right things from Anthony.
There are professional athletes who are named after Penny Hardaway. Named after him. I grew up watching Penny, and that was always the coolest name of any athlete ever. Anthony, by far. Are you kidding?
Dude, the commercials with Penny and Spike Lee were epic. Epic.
Penny was the coolest basketball player in the 90s, not Jordan. Jordan in the 90s was like mid-30s, Republican. He was like a golfer. He was hot. I thought he was cooler in the 80s before I was born, like his whole persona. By the 90s, it was very like corporate and like, yeah. Penny was cool. Penny was young. Cool. Penny was, but he got hurt. Grant Hill was cool.
For sure.
Grant Hill went to Duke, though. He was a little clean cut. But Grant Hill was cool. And we had the same name. And then Grant Hill, he could have been so much better if he hadn't gotten hurt. If you hurt your knee in the 90s, you're done.
Yeah, it's amazing how far knee surgery has come, where it's like, oh, yeah, he's just going to go get surgery. He'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, he'll be back in. Nick Bosa, he'll be better.
Stronger.
Right, let's talk about this disparity of quarterbacks from the AFC and NFC. It's almost like NBA when we were kids, where all the good players were in the West and all the bad, there was like LeBron and that was it in the East. Now all the good quarterbacks are in the AFC. Rodgers might be going there soon. And the NFC is like Stafford, Dak, and Trey, Kyler. I mean, pretty interesting.
It's wild. I mean, we lived through an era where the NFC dominated for a while. And right now, it feels like the AFC is set up for success for a long time. And it's odd to me that you're actually talking about it getting even more lopsided, that you could see a scenario where Aaron Rodgers is traded to the AFC in some miracle scenario where Russell Wilson actually gets moved from the Seahawks. You could see them exploring possibilities within the AFC. And the latest, drama with Kyler Murray. Again, these types of quarterbacks, if they get moved, you would expect them to get moved to the opposite conference because these teams don't want to come up against that player yet again. They don't want to have egg on their face. But you're already looking at a completely unbalanced scale. And the only players where you can point to as like potential.
Hold on just a second. Hey,
Ooh, we got another Schuh Show episode. We're going to bring this in. So first and foremost, I want to tell you about our new product sponsor here on the channel, DJ Jones Barbecue Sauce. We don't get any money from them, but we are supporting them because they give money to charity. And so we're big time fans. Right, Grant?
Big time. Let's answer a couple of questions real quick. And then I think I got to wrap this up. When Kyle was putting Trey in, they were losing games. It was dividing the locker room, creating a quarterback controversy. That's why it stopped. Fair.
I do think you have to consider that as an option.
Yeah. Chance for Rodgers was 2005. Tom Brady was 2020. Snooze, you lose. Trey rides with it. He's talented, but can they find a bidder for Jimmy Garoppolo is the question.
Yes, they can.
I think they can. Is Jimmy the reason, or is Bosa? Both was there the 2019 and 2021 season. Jimmy played more in the 2020 season. I say give Mullins, Nick Bosa in 2020 and see how far we go. It's fair. It's fair. Thank you, Patrick. Have you seen the Niners 2022 opponents? I see about 4 losses and that's it. Yeah, I think it's a doable schedule. It's not that bad.
Really is.
Have you seen the Niners 22? Got you. Yep. Kyle opened Trey up to this by not publicly supporting him on the field with opportunities. The kid has everything we need to win a Super Bowl.
He has to walk back the fact that he didn't promote Trey during the season because he didn't want to create a controversy. And now he has to promote Trey because we're about to make the switch to Trey. So it is a duality where he didn't do it. And now he has to make up for not having done it.
Guys, I got to wrap up the show now. I'm not on my home turf. Thanks for letting me thanks for doing this with me today. I'll be back later tomorrow with the Cohn phone. Everyone subscribe to Rob. I forgot to put his link. I should do that every time. Sorry, Rob.
You just got to search Rob Schuh.
Yes. I'll be back tomorrow with the Cohn phone. See you guys.
Cheers.